All right. Welcome, everyone. I hope you enjoyed lunch. We covered a lot so far. Several very key components of the training for our first day of training, and I will focus on one particular area, which is the practices, and I'll get more into it. But before I do that, just to make sure everyone is here, let's do a quick group activity. I promise it's going to take 1 minute. So we'll start with you, Paul, and we'll go around the room like that. And you have to say something kind or positive to Susanna. So based on for how long you've met her, say something, a positive quality, something that Susanna did or displayed during this past, 6 hours.
Well, I'm going to go even further back. You've been very enthusiastic about me coming here, so I really appreciated that through the whole process. Thank you. Thank you so much for
that. It's genuine. So
I know.
I'm very enthusiastic about you being here, so that's wonderful. Do I get to say something enthusiastic to Jen?
Yes.
But I will first say something back to Paul and then say something to Jen.
That's even
I'm so
better.
excited to learn more about your work and your grant and all of those good things. And I am also super thrilled that you're here, that you've made this commitment and you are also a rock star in your whole district. So I have experience with Jen, not only just in this context, but in others, and I know that her district is very lucky to have her in this role, which is a new role for you.
Yes.
So, which is always hard.
Thank you.
But is awesome.
Thank you. We haven't really met, but thank you for videoing my presentation.
No,
I really appreciate it.
No problem. Do I go to Jen or do I go to Paul?
You choose. Go to Paul.
Okay, Paul. You seem very approachable. I don't know you very well, but I feel like I could have a good conversation with you.
Thank you.
Excellent. I would like you to take a pause and a deep breath and just to acknowledge the positive feeling that you have right now, because you as a school team, right, there will be moments when you need to go back to this very second and say, all right, we can do this. We feel good about one another. Let's push through it, because there will be moments, I promise you, when you are about to implement this, it will be hard moments. So I want you to go back to this very second of feeling good as a team, as a school team. With that being said, let's proceed. And before I really dive into this section, the next section of the training, I just want to create a big framework, because it's all about the lens, the mindset that we have, right? So we've been talking all morning about school-wide PBIS and what its conceptual and theoretical roots are. But remember, it's a framework. It's a way of looking at things. Okay, it's like a lens, if you will. Also, it's not a prepackaged recipe that comes and you open it and it will fix your problem. There are no two schools who do PBIS the same. Not even two classrooms, for that matter, or two districts. So it's a continuum. So we always have to acknowledge the fact that we have to be flexible rather than rigid. And sometimes don't we get stuck in I want to do this, and we get a one-track mind, right? Does that happen to you? Yes, it does, right? Because it's much easier to just stick with something rather than think outside the box and really try to be more flexible. And also, it's very important to never lose sight of the outcomes, because everything we do is in hope, but not hope. In hope that we'll accomplish something. We want to make a difference. That's the bottom line this is the bottom line of what should drive us. We want to make a difference in the lives of the students we serve, but also in our own community as a district, as a class. And last but not least, we have to keep in our mind all the students. And I know we often glance over groups of students for whatever reason, but we always have to remember that everything we do should impact in a positive way all students. And as we know, and probably you can relate to this, some students tend to get more attention and energy and resources than other students. So if someone is doing well in the classroom, the teacher tends to just take it for granted, right? We have to acknowledge that, and we have to boost people's tendencies of reinforcing appropriately here. So all students, that's the bottom line. All right. So if we manage to implement this framework, PBIS, then we should be able to improve the school climate. We should switch from a reactive to a more proactive mindset. If you will. Raise your hand if you feel most of the time you are in reactive mode. That's work, right? Unfortunately, all of us tend to live in that sphere just because we are stretched thin. We have fewer and fewer resources, less and less time. New shine initiatives are launched and thrown at us on a yearly basis, if not even more often. So we are always in putting out fires. So that's the hope with school-wide PBIS. Will switch from reactive to a more proactive, positive mindset. Um, Mind you, again, going back to the outcomes, the ultimate goal is to make a difference, to help kids not only academically, but also behaviorally, socially, emotionally. So we have to remember that the things we do on a daily basis might have an impact for the rest of their lives. So the things we engage in right now, they pay off in the long run. And that's very important to remember. It feels sometimes boring, it feels sometimes tedious, but we will reap the benefits maybe years later when that student becomes, or it's just happy, or becomes somebody and graduates from college for that matter. All right, now let's bring it back home. For us to accomplish a school-wide PBIS, for us to be able to successfully implement a school-wide PBIS, we need to use a common language. That's one key piece. We have to have key phrases, key terms that we all understand each other when using it. We need a common vision, and we have to share experiences, both positive and negative. But when we share them, they bond us. And I learned the hard way that typically people bond when they go through harsh moments rather than happy moments. So we have to remember that because everything eventually translates into quality leadership. And we here in this room are the ones to go back and model it and show it. Not we have to walk the walk, not only talk the talk, as the saying goes. So are you with me? Does this again? This is just a general framework for what I'm about to introduce, and that is the key features of school-wide PBIS. So far, we spoke about outcomes, systems, covered earlier data, but really the closest to my heart are practices, because really this ties into what we do. And I'm a BCBA, I'm a behaviorist, so to me that's like the core of everything, because it's not what you are, it's what you do that defines you. So I will spend a little time on the practices component as the critical feature of a school-wide PBIS, and then I'll get into more details as we go along. All right, so what are practices? Give me a few examples. What is something that you do on a daily basis at work with your students, with your coworkers?
Teaching expectations.
Yes, reviewing expectations. Give me an example of an expectation that you review often.
Sitting with hands and feet to self.
Excellent. It's behavioral, it's specific, it's measurable, perfect. Give me a practice that you engage in staff-wide, like at a staff level rather than with students. Jen?
Staff level?
Yes.
Like teacher rewards?
Yeah.
maybe?
Like concrete rewards or a high five or yes?
Sharing data with staff.
Yeah, sharing data. So they see the purpose of their work or collecting it. Excellent. So it's very important because I think this is one of the core features of school-wide PBIS, because if we manage to establish concrete specific practices in all these areas, then all this translates into the positive outcomes I reviewed earlier. Now, it's very important to break it down a little bit, because otherwise it becomes very overwhelming. So when I mention practices, is what we do every day in different settings. Because the practices at recess or on the bus will not be the same as the practices in the classroom, right? The expectations, I should say, the routines that we have. And the practices that parents will need to establish at home are different from the expectations that students have in school. But this is the key. Here is where all of them get integrated. And this is what school-wide PBIS allows us to do, is to bring all the pieces together and then combine them into a vision, if you will. Okay? So, with that being said, Any questions? Am I making sense? I know it's overwhelming. I totally understand that. But this is the thing. We are in it together, and that really should help us.